Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Whitman's Purple Heart Ceremony, where we will officially become a Purple Heart town and join our neighboring towns along the Purple Heart Trail. I would like to especially welcome our Purple Heart recipients and their families, members of our local veterans associations, and honored guests. How is it possible that our nation remains free, remains strong, and is still viewed by millions around the world as the nation of hope and opportunity? The answer is sitting here among us today. It is the reason why we are gathered here today. The reason that our country is blessed to have brave men and women who voluntarily stand up, raise their hand, and take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. This oath comes with a price, and our service members understand the stakes. They understand that it is more than about sacrificing time away from their family and friends that they will never get back. Birthdays and anniversaries and other family milestones missed. Not being able to be there when a child feels afraid and needs to feel the hug of a parent or hear the words, "I love you," when they need it the most. Not being able to be there when the house is falling apart, the car needs repairs, or the family is in crisis. These unwritten stakes are much higher, and the cost is sometimes greater than most of us will ever know. However, our service members fully understand that they put their lives at risk in defense of our nation with each deployment. This risk turns real when they are badly injured or worse, when lives are lost. The Purple Heart Medal is the Department of Defense's formal recognition of those veterans who were killed and wounded in combat. It represents the reality of the risk our service members face. These selfless individuals come from all walks of life and backgrounds, from around our nation, and more specifically, the town of Whitman. They were either born and raised here or relocated. Some of the individuals are here today, while others are not. While they do not seek our thanks and recognition, we owe this to them. They are awarded the Purple Heart Medal for their sacrifice. With this comes our eternal gratitude. As you thank them for their service and listen to the names of our Purple Heart recipients that are read today, I ask you to include them in your thoughts and prayers, and never forget their legacy and what it means for our country. From our nation's independence to both world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, our freedom and way of life remains intact, and it did not come without a price. Those who wear the Purple Heart paid a significant price for us all. On behalf of the town of Whitman, I thank you for your service. Now, if you would all please stand and face the flag so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and if you will remain standing as Dakota Burke comes up and sings the national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land If you can remain standing, please do. If you need to sit, please do so as well. We're going to say a quick prayer. Let us pray. Today, as we celebrate the valor of our service members who have earned the Purple Heart, we ask for strength and resilience for them and for the family members and friends that care for them so much. We remember the ones who risked their lives, those who return to us, and those who sacrifice their lives. Please watch over them. We pray for our brothers and sisters in arms injured in a time of war or during a time of service. May their stories be lifted and spirits elevated. May we advocate for their healing. Allow us to see our place in the well-being of all of our neighbors, and especially today, the ones who are the wounded brave. Amen. Please have a seat. Excuse me. The Purple Heart Trail was established in 1992 by the Military Order of the Purple Heart. The resolution was approved and the MOPH National Purple Heart Trail began. The Purple Heart Trail originates at a monument in Mount Vernon, Virginia. Mount Vernon is the burial location of George Washington, and this monument marks the origin of the Purple Heart Trail. The purpose of the Purple Heart Trail is to create a symbolic and honorary system of roads, highways, and bridges, and other monuments that give tribute to the men and women who have been awarded the Purple Heart Medal. The trail accomplishes this honorary goal by creating a visual reminder to those who use the road system that others have paid a high price for their freedom to travel and live in a free society. There are currently designated sections in 45 states as well as Guam. As you travel the Purple Heart Trail, please take a moment to remember the bloodshed and the ultimate sacrifices that have been paid for our nation's freedoms. The award known as the Purple Heart has a history that reaches back to the waning days of the American Revolution. The Continental Congress had forbidden General George Washington from granting commissions and promotions in rank to recognize merit. Yet Washington wanted to honor merit, particularly among the enlisted soldiers. On August 7th, 1782, his general orders established the Badge of Military Merit. This award was open only to enlisted men and granted them the distinction of being permitted to pass all guards and sentinels, as could commissioned officers. Washington stated that the award was to be a permanent one, but once the Revolution ended, the Badge of Military Merit was all but forgotten until the 20th century. It was not until 1932 that the modern Purple Heart was created in recognition of Washington's ideals. In 1942, President Franklin Roosevelt signed an executive order allowing all branches of the armed forces to be eligible to be awarded the medal. Also in that year, the Purple Heart was made available for posthumous awarding to any member of the armed forces killed on or after December 6, 1941. Currently, the Purple Heart, per regulation, is awarded in the name of the President of the United States to any member of the armed forces of the United States who, while serving under competent authority in any capacity with one of the U.S. Armed Services after April 5, 1917, has been wounded, killed, or has died after being wounded by enemy action. The Purple Heart is truly a military medal by the people, of the people. Now, please welcome our chairman to the Board of Selectmen, Dr. Carl Kowalski, to read the proclamation.
Whereas the people of Whitman, Mass. Have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces that have been vital in maintaining the freedom of our way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart and the word merit sewn upon it, on August 7th, 1782, in Newburgh, New York, by General George Washington, then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932, by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day, and now therefore be it proclaimed, we the Whitman Board of Selectmen hereby proclaim Whitman, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's wars. And also be it proclaimed that Whitman, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day, and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag as well as other public expressions of recognition and appreciation of our Purple Heart recipients. And that's signed by the Selectmen Carl Kowalski, Dan Salvucci. At this time, it looks... I had trouble reading these. It was Randy LaMartina, I believe, and Justin Evans and Brian Zanson. Thank you very much.
So I'm doing a lot of talking. My mouth is dry. So, in the town of Whitman, there are currently 22 Purple Heart recipients that we know of in this town. There could be more, but that is all the information that we have at this time. There are 6 men from World War II that have received the Purple Heart. Private First Class Elmer Alexander Anderson served in the U.S. Army's 261st Infantry Regiment during World War II in North and South France during Rome-Arno campaign. He was wounded on January 29, 1945. Because of his service, he also earned 3 Bronze Stars and a Combat Infantry Badge. Private Paul F. Howard served in the U.S. Army's 157th Infantry 45th Division during World War II in Venenfro, Italy. He was wounded in action on December 15, 1944. He also earned 2 Combat Infantry Badges and a Good Conduct Medal. Private Robert A. Lonergan served in the U.S. Army 47th Infantry 9th Division during World War II. Private Lonergan landed on the beaches of Safi, Morocco, where his division made their way through North Africa to a final battle in Tunisia. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Thank you. This engagement was the first direct engagement between America and the German troops. Private Lonergan was killed in action in 1943. He was the first Whitman soldier killed during World War II. He was awarded the Purple Heart posthumously. He is buried in the North African American Cemetery. Sergeant Ralph Morrison served in the U.S. Army 101st Infantry Division, Company B. He was wounded in action on October 24, 1944 in Germany, which is how he earned his Purple Heart. Other awards include the Bronze Star, the Combat Infantry Badge, and the Good Conduct Medal. Private First Class William A. Murphy served in the U.S. Army 291st General Hospital Division. He served in the Asiatic Pacific campaigns during World War II, specifically in the Eastern Mandates in southern Philippines. He was awarded the Purple Heart, the American Service Medal, and the Good Conduct Medal. Private First Class Paul Rice served in the U.S. Army in Company G, 119th Infantry Regiment. During his time overseas, he at some point was boots on the ground in Normandy, where he received his Purple Heart. We have 1 service member who received a Purple Heart from the Korean War. Second Lieutenant Harvey Goss served in the U.S. Army as the leader of the 3rd Platoon, Company H, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, 1st Marine Division. He was in North Korea awaiting transfer when it was attacked by the Chinese. He was killed in action on November 29th, 1950, and was awarded the Purple Heart posthumously. He also received the Combat Service Ribbon, the United Nations Service Medal. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. We have 11 members that received it from the Vietnam War era. Sergeant Walter Frederick Badger served in the U.S. Army in Company A, 759th Military Police Battalion during the Vietnam War. He received a Purple Heart Bronze Star with the V device and 2 overseas bars. Lance Corporal Edward Lewis Bailey Jr. served in the United States Marine Corps as a rifleman at Marine Corps Base Quantico, Virginia, in the Headquarters and Service Battalion. He received the Purple Heart after being wounded in action. He also received the Combat Action Ribbon and the Cross of Gallantry with Palm. Specialist John James Beadle served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. He received his Purple Heart with 1 bronze oak leaf cluster on 19 July 1970 in the Republic of Vietnam for wounds received in action. He also earned an Army Commendation with a V, Marksman Badge with a rifle and auto rifle bar, Sharpshooter Badge with grenade bar, and Republic of Vietnam Gallantry Cross with Unit Palm Citation. Sergeant Roger D. Bradshaw served in the United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, Company M, 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marine Division as a machine gunner. He received the Purple Heart Citation, 2 Good Conduct Medals, and a Bronze Star Commendation. Specialist Russell Peter Costa served in the U.S. Army and was assigned to Headquarters Detachment 2 Infantry Brigade Combat Team. He was awarded 3 Purple Hearts, the Bronze Star, Good Conduct Medal, Combat Infantry Badge, and the Overseas Bar. Corporal Robert Joseph Duran served in the United States Marine Corps as a rifleman in Company I, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. He received a Purple Heart, Combat Action Ribbon, the Rifle Marksman's Badge. Lance Corporal Gerald F. Hurley served in the U.S. Marine Corps as an Inventory Management Specialist. Because of his service, he was awarded the Purple Heart and an Expert Rifle Badge. Specialist Dennis Roy McIntyre served in the U.S. Army in the 7th Battalion, 8th Field Artillery. He was badly wounded in the Tet Offensive in 1968. For his service, he was also awarded the Expert Badge for the M16 with rifle bar, Sharpshooter M16 with rifle bar, and Sharpshooter Badge M4 with rifle bar. Specialist Owen James O'Connor served in the U.S. Army as a light weapons infantry and received 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam. He is also an expert marksman and received expert badges for the M60 and M4. He was also awarded sharpshooter for his amazing ability with the M16. Sergeant James Peter Sears served in the U.S. Army in the 1st Infantry Division, U.S. Army Pacific. During his time in service, he was awarded the Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and Combat Infantry Medal. Lance Corporal Russell E. Stapin served in the U.S. Marine Corps as an anti-tank assaultman assigned to Casualty Company Headquarters and Service Battalion at Marine Corps Base Camp Butler. He was wounded in Vietnam and awarded the Purple Heart. He also received a Good Conduct Medal and a Rifle Marksman's Badge. And we have 4 members that served in Iraq and Afghanistan in global war on terrorism that have received the Purple Heart. Captain Philip C. Dow served with the Forward Support U.S. Army Cavalry in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom. For his bravery, he was awarded the Purple Heart. He was also awarded 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Army Commendation Medals, 2 Army Achievement Medals, and a Combat Action Badge. Sergeant Frederick Leon Gilmetti Jr. served in the United States Marine Corps and was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marine Regiment, 2nd Marine Division as an expert rifleman. He was awarded the Purple Heart after being wounded in Iraq. He also was awarded the Purple Heart, Combat Action Medal, Expert Level Rifle Qualification Badge, and the Marksman Pistol Qualification Badge. Specialist Peter John O'Brien served in the United States Army in the 1st Battalion, 187th Infantry Bravo Company. He served in Afghanistan in 2001 and 2002, Kuwait, and Iraq in 2003. He received the Purple Heart, Army Commendation, Army Good Conduct Medal, and earned expert badges on the M16 and hand grenade. And Sergeant Michael Timmons served in the United States Army National Guard as an infantryman for 11 years, in the United States Marine Corps as a rifleman for almost 4 years. During his time in service, he received the USMC Meritorious Mast, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Purple Heart, Army Achievement Medal, United States Navy Achievement Medal, the Presidential Unit Citation, Army Good Conduct Medal, USMC Good Conduct Medal, the NATO Medal, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, the Navy Meritorious Unit Commendation, and an Expert Rifle Qualification Badge. Please join me in a round of applause for such a heroic group of men that sacrificed so much for our country in the great town of Whitman. And please, if you know of any more Purple Heart recipients, or if there's any corrections to the information that we have, please call Veterans Services at Town Hall and let me know, because I don't want to miss anybody. So make sure I have all the correct information. Call or email anytime. Now, if a member of the American Legion would come forward to unveil the signs that will officially make the town of Whitman a Purple Heart town. That was awesome. And there are other signs that were donated are also there. There's also a map on the table that will show you all the locations that have been picked to where the signs will be going. And each sign has its own location. So I want to thank all of our town officials and administrators that came to celebrate with us today. Thank you to all of our sponsors who generously donated 18 signs to be displayed in Whitman. Thank you to the American Legion for allowing us to use this space for our ceremonies today. And lastly, a huge thank you to our Purple Heart recipients and their families. Your sacrifices do not go unnoticed, and from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate that all that you represent for the town of Whitman, this beautiful place that we call home. Thank you. Please stay and join us for refreshments that we have in the back.